Well, friends, good morning. So, if we understand the biblical concept of typology, which I've taught in Rediscovering Catholicism, then we should not be surprised at all that you've got an Old Testament reading about the Ark and a Gospel about Our Lady, right? Typology is that biblical kind of interpretive lens through which we understand that the Old Testament prefigures the New, and the New Testament fulfills the Old, that there are persons, places, events, things in the Old, known as types, and they are fulfilled or brought to perfection or fulfillment in the New. These are the antitypes, right? So you've got Moses, who was rescued from a tyrant dictator, and all the babies under the age of 2 are slaughtered by Pharaoh, a type prefiguring Jesus, whose life is threatened by another tyrant king. All the baby boys under the age of 2 in Bethlehem, their life are threatened and slaughtered, right? So the way that salvation history unfolds is that there are things and events in the Old that are brought to fulfillment in the New. So again, if we're familiar with that concept, we shouldn't be surprised that we have an Old Testament reading about the Ark and a New Testament reading, the Gospel, about Our Lady, because our Blessed Mother is the Ark of the New Covenant. She's the Ark of the New Covenant. She's the fulfillment of the Old Ark. And we need this Old Testament lens. We need this Old Testament story from 2 Samuel in order to appropriately grasp who she is in the gospel and like who she is for us and what our response should be to her, right? Okay, so what do we see David doing as he's bringing the Ark of the Covenant into the city of David, Bethlehem? What is he doing? Firstly, we hear this, that there are great festivities. There are great festivities. We hear that there's this extravagant and lavish displays of worship, this excess of sacrifice, that it just seems so over the top, right? We hear this, that as soon as the bearers of the Ark of the Lord had advanced 6 steps, he sacrificed an ox and a fatling. Okay, so picture that. They got the Ark on the poles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause, slaughter that ox, kill that fatling. A lot of blood, a lot of carcasses, just lining the street as they're coming into the city. Advance 6 more steps. Slaughter the ox, slaughter the fatling. 6 more steps. Ox, fatling. All of this is happening. And what is David, the king, doing? What is he doing? Is he holding himself in this sort of like posture of great royal, regal decorum? Is he just sitting on his throne very quietly, pensively, contemplatively? Think of like the coronation of King Charles a few summers ago, right? No, that's not what he's doing. David, we hear this, David girt with a linen apron. We know what a linen apron is, right? It's like a loincloth. He's basically stripped down, nearly naked. David is stripped down, nearly naked. He came dancing before the Lord with abandon, as he and all the house of Israel were bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouts of joy and to the sound of the horn. Like, picture a mega parade. Picture people like a victory parade in a city. Like, picture something like that. Horns, jubilation, festivities, carcasses, right? David, the king, dancing wildly, nearly naked. David is dancing this wild dance of joy and abandon in the presence of the Lord, in the presence of the ark. Now, lest we think this is wildly inappropriate, listen to Joseph Ratzinger, right? Pope Benedict XVI. In his little book called Daughter Zion, where he's reflecting on Our Lady, he says one of the foremost biblical images of the incredible happiness that seizes us when we encounter God is in his sacred, let me start again. One of the foremost biblical images of the incredible happiness that seizes us when we encounter God in his sacred dwelling is that of King David dancing before the ark. Just as in the leaping and jumping of the man Peter healed at the beautiful gate, something is expressed in David's ecstatic joy that belongs to the heart of the faith. Pause there. Hear that again. Something is expressed in David's ecstatic joy that belongs to the heart of the faith. Again, Pope Benedict XVI, Joseph Ratzinger, right? He's saying this experience of encountering God, it is so overwhelming. It is this shock of joy. It's this electrification of beauty and glory. There's this exuberance. And he's saying that's at the heart of our faith. That experience, much like your faces looking at me right now. Okay. He continues. Essential to it is the joy in the Word become man. The dance before the Ark of the Covenant in self-happiness by one who has recognized God's salvific nearness. That he's this close. He's come this close. He's come this far. Then here's the money line. Ready? Only against this backdrop, what we just heard, only against this backdrop can Marian devotion be comprehended. Marian devotion. Think about Marian devotion. What does that bring to mind for you? Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Marian devotion. Pope Benedict is saying, against this backdrop of David's exuberance, this wild dance, can Marian devotion be comprehended? He's saying the fittingness of David's wild dance, of joyful abandon before the ark, he's saying that background, only against this background can Marian devotion be comprehended. Transcending all problems, Marian devotion is the rapture of joy over the true, indestructible Ark of the Covenant. So like this image of like emotional reserve, passionless Christianity, this image of stoicism, that holiness is stoicism, that Christianity is this toughening of the human heart, the human person. That is not virtue, that is not sanctity, that's not Christianity, that's not Catholicism. You're free to do that if you want, but you're not free to call yourself a saint in the making. True Christianity, true discipleship on the road to sanctity looks like this. Joseph Ratzinger is saying it begins with this exuberance, this joy, this abandon, this deep love, right? He's saying, Pope Benedict, he's giving voice to the tradition of the entire church. He's inviting us to consider today that Marian devotion looks a lot more like David than these stoic holy cards that we have stuffed in our Bibles. Just very frozen in time images. Only a wild love of Our Lady, only a wild love of Our Lady would have ever inspired the cathedrals of Europe, or Chartres, or Notre Dame, or Sainte-Chapelle. Only a wild love of Our Lady would have inspired the images, the icons, the art, Michelangelo, Bouguereau. I mean, the list is on and on. It's the wild lovers of Our Lady that's given birth to all of these beautiful hymns and paintings and poems and images. Against this backdrop, Pope Benedict says, can Marian devotion be comprehended? Amen.